Web accessibility. What is it? Why is it important? How can we ensure our websites meet the most current accessibility standards? Tim Berners-Lee, W3C director and inventor of the World Wide Web, said, quote, "The power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect." So before getting into the specifics of web accessibility, let's delve into the why. Why is accessibility necessary? The Web Accessibility Initiative, or WAI, of W3C declares that accessibility is essential for some and useful for all. 15 to 20% of the world's population has some kind of disability. I truly believe that one of the most important features of the web is that anyone with the right tools can access this deep, vast well of information, regardless of ability, location, age, etc. To secure this access, we must make sure our programming creates sites that are usable for all. So who benefits from accessibility? Is this just for the 15 to 20% of the population living with disabilities? No, web accessibility standards not only cover people with auditory, cognitive, neurological, physical, speech, and visual disabilities, but others as well. Accessibility also benefits people using devices with varying sizes and input modes, older people with changing abilities, and people with temporary disabilities like a broken wrist or even just lost glasses. Designing a website for optimum accessibility also benefits people with various situational limitations, like a mobile user using GPS in bright sunlight, or a library patron watching a video without headphones. Using captions can prevent disruptions without losing the content of the video. Lastly, people using a slow internet connection or with limited bandwidth can also benefit from the alt attributes of an image tag. Following accessibility standards can also increase your website's search engine optimization, or SEO, which can increase the visibility of your site on the web. Now let's start to look at the specifics of what accessibility is. W3C has published and maintained the Web Content Accessibilities Guidelines, or WCAG. These guidelines can be found at w3.org under the Web for All section. WCAG lists 4 core principles of what an accessible website should be. The first is perceivable. The content of a website should be both seen and heard. This presentation will be focusing mostly on this concept. Secondly, the website should be operable. All content and functionality on the website should be accessible by keyboard only, if necessary. Voice operation should also be possible. Not everyone has access or the ability to use a computer mouse. The third principle requires that a web page be understandable. We should always use clear and simple language when designing and providing content for our site. Lastly, a website needs to be robust. This means that it should be designed to work with assistive technologies like screen readers. Let's discuss one of the most important aspects of the perceivable principle, contrast. Most people think of color when considering contrast, and while color is very important, it is not the only contrasting value we should be paying attention to. Size, shape, and positional contrast are also important aspects of web accessibility. So here we have a very bad example of contrast on a website. The color contrast on the links is very low. The size contrast is also poor. There is no visual hierarchy since everything is essentially the same size, and the eye doesn't know where to look first. There is also no shape contrast. Most of the elements are long rectangular shapes. Finally, without positional contrast, this page looks confusing and overwhelming. Imagine someone with dyslexia or visual impairment trying to navigate this page. Here we have an example of good color contrast. The bright image colors contrast well with the black background, as well as the text colors. Another thing to consider when choosing colors for your website is the concept of luminosity. Many people have a harder time reading or even just looking at colors with too high of luminosity. Can you imagine how bad this page would look with neon yellow text against the black background? While the contrast between yellow and black is high, the luminosity would also be too high, and it can hurt some people's eyes. Next, we have a great example of good size contrast. The large header completely catches the eye, and despite lots of content on this page, the careful and deliberate hierarchy prevents this page from being completely overwhelming. Instead, it's inviting and energetic. This website provides a great example of shape contrast. The circle images contrast with these rectangular text boxes. It's clear how this page splits its different sections. The last aspect of contrast we should examine is positional contrast. Here's a page that uses this very well. Despite having overlapping images, because they are staggered and the corresponding text descriptions are clearly segregated, it is easy to navigate through this content. Every image on a web page that is not merely decorative should include an appropriate alt attribute. Alt attributes, which are included after the source declaration in HTML, are useful for screen readers, SEO, and users with text-only browsers. The attribute should be descriptive and useful. It should include any text that is in the image, like a logo, and it should be brief. Using rich keywords is also good practice. So how can we write a good alt attribute for this image? I've written out a few bad examples. White building is too short and not descriptive enough. It could mean anything. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Gilbert, Arizona Temple with a blue sky background and lots of greenery in front with a steeple on top is too long. A good alt attribute for this image could be Gilbert, Arizona Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This includes location and a good description of the image without being too lengthy. It also includes good keywords for search engine optimization. Good page titles improve navigation, SEO, and screen reader function. What makes a good title page, or page title? It should provide an adequate and brief description of the content of your page. Every page of a site needs to be uniquely titled. A title should have important and unique information first. A good example of this is from w3.org's accessibility check page. Easy checks is the first part of their page title, so it makes it easy to see what part of the site you're on. Other practices of web accessibility include making sure all site functions are available through a keyboard. This means ensuring that forms or fillables can be tabbed through drop-down menus can be scrolled through with the arrow keys, and submit buttons can be clicked on with an enter key. We should also be providing transcripts for audio files and captions on all videos. Web accessibility is not only the best practice, it is also required by law in some cases. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 requires accessible technology to be provided by all federal agencies. These include government agencies, federally funded agencies and nonprofits, and public education institutions. Many other companies have also chosen to be 508 compliant. Lastly, I wanted to mention a few great resources to evaluate your website's accessibility. A11Y Compliance Platform is offered by the Bureau of Internet Accessibility and provides guidance and evaluation reports. AATT, the Automated Accessibility Testing Tool, is offered by PayPal and creates evaluation reports. The Accessibility Checklist is a free and easy way to review current accessibility guidelines. Lastly, of course, is W3C's online resources. They are considered to be the global authority on web accessibility standards and are the source for much of this presentation's information. If you wanted to research this topic further, w3.org is an excellent resource. Following current web accessibility standards is a crucial aspect of web design and development. To ensure the greatest access to the World Wide Web for all, we must take these standards seriously and write up our web pages using these guidelines and principles. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to ask any questions or share your experiences, good or bad, with web accessibility in the comments below. Thank you.